A very good evening to all of my folks out there. It is Wednesdays, and that means it's live coding Wednesdays. I've started earlier, an hour later than planned, but rather later than never, I suppose. So let's get the show cracking. Yo, back again in my condo on the beach, I would say. Hopefully all the technical issues are sorted out by now. Yeah, so the past 4 episodes I've been focusing on getting a monolith to a cloud-native serverless technologies. And because of technical issues of the stream and stuff like that, it was a bit challenging to get the things out and in the quality I wanted it to be, but hopefully we will get better as we move on. So in terms of structure, I would like to get started off showing what we have done last time, and then maybe continue with that on that track to give some idea of where we're moving towards. I don't want to focus too much on one specific topic as we move on, because we need to get this thing done. Otherwise it's like a endless bit of nothing. But yeah, so let me quickly share my screen. Hopefully we have good audio, which is important because that's all about communication, and also good visuals. So all the people that are currently watching the stream, please let me know in the chat. Oh, there we go, other way. In the chat there, if you see something weird or if you have a question, then we can maybe get it answered. Alright, so I've been working on the past episodes on a Jobcard program, and one of the aspects of it is customer management of this Jobcard program. So, and I've implemented 2 endpoints for creating a new customer and also obtaining that one customer, just to sort of get a feel of Azure Functions, because that's the technologies that we are going to be using in this case. So what you're seeing is 2 endpoints, one for creating a new customer by posting customers, and also very important is that we specify a tenant ID, because this application should be multi-tenant. So in this case, I want to be creating a customer in the Awesome Inc. tenant ID. The next, we specify the payload. It's also very important to point out that a person, or that a customer rather, can be a person, like a private person, or a company. The difference being is that companies have more information related to a customer than a normal person would have. And then there is a different thing we need to note, is that the ID number is the business identifying number, like the business entity identifier, let's just call it that, not the actual row ID in SQL terms or in technical terms. So that's separate from what this ID means. So when we run this, I've actually got it open in Visual Studio. If you want to follow along, please do so. The code is actually open this up. The code is available on the GitHub, on my GitHub page. You can just go to github.com/FarneyRenders /Jobcard.vNext. There you will see a very simple repo with all the assets. Assets is just all the screenshots that we've been working from. That's the old legacy system. and the source you will obviously see as we move on and create this new system. And also this HTTP folder is just all the requests I test with. So I already have the solution open. I'm just going to quickly F5 the solution. Just as a quick recap. Hopefully everything should go as planned this time. According to the stats, I see there are some viewers. If you don't mind just pinging me in the chat so that we know that we are in good quality, because I'm actually doing it for you guys out there to learn together. Alright, so our Azure function is up and running and live. We have 2 endpoints. Let's create one, which is this one, and then the get one. So if I send a request to this one, sometimes when I run this thing it gets stuck. There we go. And what's interesting is I get a bad request, because in the previous episode we've implemented validation on the actual endpoint. I'm not quite happy with how this gets rendered, member names. That's I suppose that's the property names of that specific property. Maybe we can leave it like that for now. It might be better to incorporate this in errors. Maybe that's semantics. Maybe incorporate it as a RFC 7807 or something, like a problem detail model, whereby we oops, there we go, return something like this, you know, type, title, detail, etc. as part of the payload. But we can totally look at it from a enhancements perspective. Okay, so what is wrong here? So it needs a few things like account number and postal address, residential address, etc. So I'm just going to mock them. And I see also the email address is not a valid email address. So to scout that out, let's just .com that. And what else? The name is invalid. So okay, let's just call this name. Test. Account number. So that can be anything. Postal address. Now that's also very, why do I write that? This can also be anything for now. Let's copy the same for residential address. And then telephone, and that's it, telephone 1. That's the minimum things that are required. Of course there's other fields, but just to satisfy this validation, telephone 1, something. So this should work now if I send it in there. So now we have a created, which is fine. It was created in this location. I just do that, I should be able to get the same ID back. Now notice that we have null values here. That's because our endpoint isn't properly implemented yet. It's only mapping the basic information. So this is what I was talking about. We've got the ID of the actual resource, and we've got the custom ID. So maybe this is a bit confusing. Maybe we should call this customer ID instead of ID, or make this underscore ID or something. The point is that we have two IDs and we need to differentiate what. So this is a resource ID, and the custom ID is, I think we should change that to custom ID, because it's actually a custom ID. Let's actually change that now. I'm just checking the stream out to see if it's everything fine. It looks good. Alright, so this is the create customer. Also noticed, if you take a look at the source code, I've split the functions up into separate files. This being the customer management module, and it contains entities and models. In this case, models being thanks Eric, models being my DTOs for now, and then each function will contain a create or like a CRUD methods or whatever functions will create. So in the create customer, we have a few things going on. This is like the Azure Functions stuff with bindings. We get the tenant ID. We can just validate it when it still exists. Very importantly, we actually need to update our company model. So first of all, the hierarchy is like this. We have a customer model, which is our customer DTO, and we have a company model, which is the extension of the customer model. So technically it actually should be two separate things, but for now let's just inherit from each other to see how it goes. Get some duplicate chats in the chat, but that's something we'll fix later on. Okay, so taking a look at the customer entity, for now we have type and ID, and if we take a look at the Azure storage, we're actually just storing this as a table data. I open a table, there should be customers there, and if we take a look at the data, it's only type and ID that I store other than the row key. So we can also extend that to actually store more information. Alright, so I need to modify this as being the customer ID, I would say. No, there's already a custom ID, which is fine. We need to modify the new customer model. So this one is actually the one with the actual validation rules on it. So this DTO is being used to create a new customer resource. So call this customer. That's required. And we've got a few other things that's also like email address and stuff like that. That is included in this thing. So what we could do is, because technically this is this whole customer thing, so what we could do is we can actually copy, just taking a look at all the fields, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fields. And if we take a look at, so just quickly jumping back to the assets, there should be, that's now the customer, the company one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's basically the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's actually perfectly the same. So we could, on the integer side, decide to do this. Because it's the same, I don't really want to share on this level. I don't want to share my DTOs and my entities. I want to actually keep them separately for now, if that makes sense. But we could, well, we could leave this required things here for now, but I don't see the value in it. So type ID, this can go, this can go. Because we already, the API is already validating that things. If we need it back, we'll just put it back. Otherwise, I don't think we will be needing it anytime soon again. Alright, so we have a private customer's details. Now we need to actually add the company models as well to this mix. So for that we'll just chuck everything in there like so, for instance. Whenever we migrate this this code to Cosmos DB, this part actually will refactor even more. Okay. Right, so we have the whole entity right now. So now we can actually do interesting things with Automapper. So let's see what's going on here. So we create a new item, we read the request body, and we create a new customer model, and we quickly see if we can validate that guy, and if it's valid, we continue. Now this is interesting, it checks. This is also wrong, because here this ID is customer ID. I'm actually going to change that to customer ID. And this should be customer ID, like that I would say. This ID here can actually get out because we inherit from table entity, which already has a row key and a partition key, which is very important. We don't care about row IDs on this level. So what this is doing is actually, which we need to move later to a validator, is it's basically checking for, you know, given a certain customer's business identity, like his identity number or the company's registration number, for a specific tenant, it should not exist for those combinations. So if it does, it just returns a customer already exists bad request. So if all else is good, then we can continue parting on an entity. Which in this case is these fields. We're creating these things, type, and then here's the customer ID, and that should link to that. So this is actually where I want to include Automapper to make things a bit better for us. So how do we do that in... you might have noticed I will Google things as I move along, because it's sort of part of the thought process, right? So it gives us the opportunity to sort of also get some cool blog posts out there. So order mapper. Hopefully Jan de Vries will have some tips, but I don't think he is watching at this moment. Okay, let's see. Initializing auto mapper, simplify projections. No, that's old. Don't do that one. Okay. You only need to call activate once. Mikhail, okay, so actually want to add automapper first. Map initializer dot activate. How would you run it? I see. Okay. How old is this question? This is quite a while ago, 2017. Let's see if there's more candidates. There's one for DI, and this is the one from our friend Jan de Vries. And this is the one I've actually want to be using. A function logger appender, which is great. Using the appender. This is not really what I want, but let's see. Using dependency. There we go. Thank you, Jan. So what we'll do is not be using math, but now is this based on my startup? Okay, so this is where you... I don't know what this is. Why do you do this, Jan? Okay, so this is not a function, is it? I need some functions. Alright, so let's see what Jan says. Obviously first need to when you start thinking about using dependency injection, it's constructor injection. In this case you might want to rethink your mapping profile. Now if you need mapping Of course, if you need this, you want to consider the custom type converters or the custom value resolvers. Alright, so let's see. This is not really the one I want. This is not Azure Functions. Where did I see that now? Let's do another Google. Alright, so we have this. Okay, so as a starting point, let's add this this thing. So web jobs startup. So what do we need here? Okay, this has an extension which is quite cool. So I suppose we need to have a Jobcard startup thing. So where do we put this? Web jobs startup. So we will do a normal startup class. Let's just put one in the root. Probably I need to resolve that guy and a few other things. Okay, these things aren't there, so I need this add dependency injection extension method. So what is the NuGet package that this is in? What NuGet package? Oh yeah, this one. Zone Azure dependency injection. So if I'm not mistaken, we can actually do dependency injection or package management inside here. So let's see how that works. That's quite stable. Zone. We have that's working perfectly fine. Alright, so now we have that. So now we need to actually add dependencies like I want to add automapper. Yes, and then we can check these things in here, which is fine. It's a fairly new post. Alright, so importantly we have a map. So this is how we do a map. Obviously first we need automapper. Just want to see if it includes a specific Alright. Very interesting. Justin Yu wrote that AutoMapper dependency injection, the code used here is an Azure function that calls secret keys from Azure Key Vault, etc. So he's got a little AutoMapper profile, and then his secret profile is registered through a add AutoMapper extension method, which looks for for an assembly. And he's got his own little extension here. So actually, maybe we should use this one instead. I have no idea. I'm in a bit of a... Maybe just follow one blog post at a time and see where we end up at, I suppose. Because see, the thing is, I also would like other dependencies. This Azure function code for dependency injection management, so it obviously has a module when it loads up, similarly to this one. It has a similar concept, I suppose. After defining the IOC container like above, the function factory registers all dependencies that gets triggered within the function, invokes the get services secrets function. So we'll have a factory, and how do we get the functions out of there? So I like it, but it's a bit, because this mapper is injected, which is cool, but where do I use it in my function itself? Let's go look at the sample code. It's got mappers in there, it's got all this stuff. There's these modules, this app module. Registering all the services there. I actually like the one that we have right now. I think that's perfectly fine. What we just need to add is a combination of our maps. Like in this case. Then we have, oh, we don't have AutoMapper, do we? Did not install it there. Control dot, not using reflection. Control dot, what is the problem here? Add AutoMapper. Why does that not want to work? Add. Maybe try that again. Well, AutoMapper was added. There's a thing, okay, injecting. I'm up at function level, so function factory. That's not really what I want, but fine. But the thing is, how do you add this? Because AutoMapper needs to be added somehow. Let's go to the website and see how do we get started, blah blah. Install it. Docs. Let's go search. Let's see. So we have extensions, Microsoft dependency injection. That's the one I actually want to install, which I forgot. Let's add that one. The Microsoft extensions one. Now that will allow us to add AutoMapper to the services collection, I suppose. Go back to our startup class. And we'll see add that. There we go. Add AutoMapper. And doing that, do you think it will actually just add? Okay, so now we need to create a profile. So now let's go ahead and create a maps directory. Okay, now first let's create a map from new customer to customer entity. Things a bit pedantic. So okay, now paste that little line there, remove the other stuff that's not needed. Do a quick so that needs to inherit from profile, and we have now a customer profile. Right. And the way AutoMapper works, we need to, in the constructor, define create map, and this is going to be a map for customer, new customer model. To a customer model. Actually a customer entity. Is that available? No. So custom, so model to entity. Because model is actually the whole thing. Well, technically not. Because type can be different. So maybe we should do the same thing here. We have a customer class, like a private customer, which is a customer entity, and a company. One. So let's move these things maybe up the stack out. Company customer. Put the things there and inherit from my customer. And just to make it complete, we'll do a class person customer. That's what I've called it, right? So it's a person type, person customer entity, and which doesn't really add anything to the deal, but just leave that empty for now. All right. So we have a customer and we have a person and a company. Now we need to create maps for these kind of things. So we need to create a map, and this new customer model should actually also change. Let's call this specific, because we're creating a specific customer. So a new person customer model. New person customer model. Actually, let's put that back. New customer model, and we just do the same for public class. The reason why I'm splitting it up into separate classes is because the validation might be different. We can actually make this abstract to play nicely to the rules. Because if we take a look at the company, oops, company, it has these information that's also required rather. And going back to the screens, the director's name and ID number is required in this case. But also note that the registration number is different, so we can actually play around with that as well. So we have a director name and ID number. Like that. And we keep the rest as is. We might need to it's a good idea to override this one. So what we could do is we could say the custom ID being at a virtual override custom ID, which is the normal one, but then what we do is we say JSON property, and we call this, for instance, ID number. Person ID number rather. I think that's much better. And do the same for the company, and we say company registration number. Okay, so there's all this bold or not? Let's see. I've got absolutely no idea. It works. So let's go back to our mapping. We have a new person customer model, and that maps to a person customer entity and vice versa. And we also have a new company customer model, and that goes to the company customer entity. Because the things are really the same, AutoMapper should work as expected. Let me just see customer model, customer ID. We might need to so there's no ID here, there's only an ID there, which is fine. We don't want to reverse this, going from entity to model, because this is actually one way. So what actually happened when I just run this now? I want to delete these two records. Right, so there we go. It says customer field is required. Created it. Okay, so I want to call this not customer ID, but I want to call this, it should be called person ID, right? Because technically this is a set only. Let's actually remove this. It's not really. Let's do it very simple. Person ID number. Of course, it's not an override. We can say declaration number. Right, so that should work, and I should get a numerous errors, which is fine, which is I expect. But the problem now is that it's actually looking at okay, so what I can do is I can ignore that JSON from there. I need one unified custom ID. I need that. Maybe this should go there, but still also set this one. Like a JSON ignore on this one. Okay, so now I do a rebuild. It should work still fine. Okay, that's fine. Meaning if I run it now,
I fell and lost to the war, shot me dead. I was lost, and instead to the voices in my head, I'm gonna get up again. I'm gonna get up to.
That's also fine. This custom ID is not supposed to be there. What will happen if I do this? It also creates it, right? But how does it know? Okay, so it needs to know what. Okay. All right. So now I know what the problem is, because it cannot serialize what point do we get a new customer model? So here so we know it's a new customer model, but we don't know at this point if it's a person or a company.
Look into my eyes, my heart beats like a drum.
So what you could do is we can cast it. because if the type is a person, will that work though? I don't think so. Okay, that's reassuring. We get internal server error. Maybe I'm too overcomplicating it, but okay, so maybe if we do this name handling thing on, I mean chuck it in there, and we say employee, and then we go back to a person. Put the settings there. And now we should be able to serialize this. I hope at least. Still. So there must be a way of because I have the request body, maybe I can just get the ID alone and then check the ID and then initialize it back again into appropriate types. Meaning because all the customers has this information, I might as well just do that. I wonder now if we say generics, how would it solve it? But let's not go into that rabbit hole. Where's my map? So in this case I want to go for a new customer model base. I check my type, and if so, we'll make a new customer, and we say new customer is serialize this please as take the settings out, it's actually not needed. I want to serialize this as a person model, that should be fine. The other one I want to serialize as a company. And then I pass my new customer in here. So technically this should solve the problem of serialization. It's just doing it twice, but fine. Also need the ID. that up the stack, then that should work. Okay, fine. New customer. New custom entity. And then that should be entity. We'll replace this with automapper now. All I can say is it's awesome. I have to get my daily dose of sound effects out there. Please don't break. It breaks. Could not a great instance of type of okay, fine. Cannot be abstract class. Fine, fine, fine. I did not know. Apparently you can't create or serialize an abstract class, which makes sense because you can't really new it up. But there must be a way of actually cleverly serializing subclasses or complex types in this matter. Please don't break. Another error. Instance provided must match object instance on validation context supplied. Now what does that mean? It effectively means that I need to rethink the way I do things here. Because this validator now is a new customer model. Can I do that? No, I can't. Does this have overloads? Object type, that's cool. I can only get it. That sucks a bit. I could make this a dynamic, but then I lose my validation things all over. So what I would do is okay, this goes up the stack. Over here, for instance, or let's put them here, I would say. We have an input, and then we do the validations. Let's assume everything is actually true. Actually reuse that memory, I think that should be fine. This needs a lot of refactoring, I think. We can maybe look at creating a kind of extension method for this. technically we can delete this. Will I get the same problem now? Because I create a new type there. I should not create this. So technically this should be better. The bolts. Alright, so let's say input. And input. Seeing plenty of errors today. And please don't break. Yes, bad request. Awesome. This is absolutely amazing. Because it's a person, I get the person number. But if I take this now also to company, I should get back company with more details that's invalid, which is the stuff I'm actually looking at. Building, which is very cool, you know. Okay, so now let's add the stuff. So we can refactor it a little bit later. Now we know we have inputs. It's valid or not. Let's focus on the automapper stuff. So here I check if the customer is I use the same, okay. Right, so now let's use automapper. And according to this Mr. blog post, I should be able to, where is it? Yeah. I should be able to inject, no, not this one. Vela. I should be able to inject. I need to add to these. Okay, this I have. This is my startup. I should be able to have this in there. So let's see what happens. Let us see what happens. So now I can blindly, at least like inject kind of maneuver. And I inject my mapper. Because what I want to do, oh, there's something going south here. Oh, cool. It has conflicts. Hi, Kim. Good morning. It's actually still night here, but good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining. So now the thing is, if I remove that guy, see it has validation contexts. Okay, I see. Can maybe do that. Oh, how you mate? Australia. Let's do that. Down under. That should be fine. Okay, so now let's finish this thing. So now we have that, and now what we want to do is not to do this, but we want to be able to create it from a mapper. So we want to be saying something like mapper dot map custom entity, for instance, and then give a source, which is the input. That's in essence what we want, but the problem is that we can create this, but the problem is that why is that interesting? New customer base, that's not really what we want. Well, we need to add a tenant ID. We need to have a way of figuring out how to add a tenant ID to that item, and I think the quickest way of doing it is not mapping it from this model explicitly, but maybe using a tuple and then string Of course, we can probably use named tuples, but no idea. So let's see. Name tuples. Blah blah blah. Where is name tuples? Pattern matching. Okay, I can do it like that. That's cool. Could I do this? This is valid? No, it's not valid. Just say a string. Right, now we have that. Mapping it from a tuple. So the only thing that we need to do is create a new tuple of string, and this is the other thing we need to do, to physically create that, but then we'll probably just do another if. We could actually just split this up, use the same logic but different functions. We can play around with ideas later. So if it's a person, then I say the tenant ID is in there. I can actually make the tenant ID part of this customer. That's maybe an idea. That is maybe an idea. So meaning this custom here, you'll have a tenant ID. And we could say something like from header that's also totally fine. I wonder if that will work. X tenant ID. Will that? Name. Okay, well, let's see if this that disappears. So now that's interesting. So let's see if we can get around this. Okay, so what we do is here, instead of that, I'm gonna put a breakpoint in there. Let me just see where. There. Great. So let's see. This should be a person. Internal server error. Cannot be invoked from missing Azure Web Jobs SDK attributes. What does that mean? That's interesting, it doesn't work according what I wanted it to work. Maybe I should just quickly take this out, because I've got a feeling that the automapper thing is... Oh yeah, running locally is cool, otherwise you have to end up deploying and stuff. What I'm also using is this local storage, or the storage explorer with the local emulated storage, which is quite cool as well. But I want to hit the breakpoint now, and if this thing will quit breaking on me. Okay, so now what we have here is input, serialize it back. We do not have a tenant ID, because model binding does not work here, right? It would be cool to actually put in model binding here, so it actually will bind my tenant ID to there, but for now let's just set it manually. If it's valid. Okay, so now we also need to remember to map that to partition key. This way it gets interesting. For a member, row key. Okay, let's start with the partition key. Use the options. map from. Oh, no, I need to change my types again because it's a bit naughty now. There we go. I want that to map from my tenant ID. And for, let's actually duplicate that line, Control D. We say row ID. We can map this from GUID.new GUID to string. That should do the trick. And actually for I wonder if I should take this off, say new customer model to a customer entity. So now that should do the trick, right? So if I go, okay, but first I need to get my mapper working. How would I get this mapper thing working now? Because this thing runs in ads. Oh, I'm missing something very important. I am missing something very important here. It's that assembly thing. Right, so let's put that on there. We can make it like that. Okay, now it should not break now. There's the mapper. Let's call that new customer now. I want to be able to be mapping it from input. Let's put a breakpoint there and see what happens. So I've been streaming about an hour and a half now, meaning I've been trying an hour and a half to get dependency injection and automapper working. Skip the tune now. Let's play some real music. Something went wrong. Cannot bind parameter mapper. So it's supported binding. Type is supported binding if you're using extensions. It's called registration method. Well, that's annoying. Because it's not working. kill some tabs here. Maybe it needs this. I have no idea. Let's see if that works. Please work. Please work. Oh, darn it. Cannot bind parameter mapper. Interesting. Why is that happening? I suppose I can just use the static class for now, at least, just to move forward. That's not even possible. Yeah, okay. It has map. Yeah, that is all the things I need. So for now, let's party on not injecting our mapper, because it's something we can move towards. Because definitely dependency injection issue that we need to solve. Maybe it's a blog post that I can solve or do when I get this right. It looks like everything is binding correctly. Sending a request will trigger a breakpoint. Yep. It's valid. It's false. Okay, it's not valid. It's fine. And what is the problem? Well, person ID number. And let's try this again. And this should be valid now. And it should not exist. Oh, it does. Darn. Refresh. And let's try again. That should not exist now. Sending out tenant, and now this is where the fun starts. We've got this input, which is a new person customer, and we want a new customer, and it breaks. Automapper not initialized. Call initialize with appropriate function. Right, so we need to call initialize. Automapper dot initialize or something, mapper initialize. Oh, I see, okay. This is a bit annoying because we need to customer profile. Can I have this static? Okay, that. Now it should work. Okay, it's been rejected. Why? Because, okay, there we go. Looks like it needs some time to recuperate. 5, 10, and it looks like we've got a new customer. All with a row key, which is a GUID, and a partition key, which is awesome ink. And it's a person, which is very cool. If we take a look at the data, just actually clear this and open up new again. Of course, I have not added that customer to the table that I've mapped yet. I can do that. Run it again. It's being created. The name, okay, so it's a bit weird. Let's just see if the data has been saved correctly. Okay, so now the data has been saved correctly. It looks like my person, ID number, name, account number, postal address, residential telephone, and email has been added. Wonderfully. Let's see if we can add a company. So if I do that, it will break because I need to include the company registration number and director one name. Let's call him John. And that customer already exists, of course. Let's call this company 1. That will be created, which is fine. Now we should have 2, right? One a person and one a company. And all of them are actually looking at a custom ID. But the thing is to note is that we don't have any fields. That's quite annoying because where's my director? Of course, I've added this now as a person. Darn it. It's a customer entity. Is that the case actually? Let's see, let's investigate this. We'll get to the bottom of this. Oh, by the way, these voice modification things, I'm using voice mod. Go grab it, it's actually a cool application to modify your voices on the fly. So this is a company that works. No data. It's interestingly because it does not add what am I doing wrong? No, the intention was not to scare you, sorry. It's absolutely awesome. What do I need to do? Kim, any suggestion? Because I'm adding a new customer entity, which is in that case a company. Something may be wrong with the mappings. Hi Martin. So what I'm trying to figure out is my mapping that's not really correct. It's, well, it's mapping the right object, customer, and so the problem is I've got two entity types, company and person, and it maps it correctly, but when it saves it back into the actual entity table, this is not working. Because validation wise everything works fine. I'm looking for John and ID number. If I execute that, customer already exists, fine, because that's true. You see, the problem here is it's mapping it as a type. It's a new company customer model, mapping it to a customer entity. And the problem here, it ends up being a customer, which is actually valid, because I need to do this again. Make it type safe. Actually just validate the type as well. What you'll do is we'll take that out. New customer. Entity. Oh. Then we'll say, move that up a bit. And we say, great, new customer entity is automapper, otherwise mapped to a customer. Oh, yeah, it is. Let's see where's the mappings again. That goes there. Person, customer entity, okay. I want something like this, but the problem is company customer entity. So let's see if that works. When there, it's all about trying the inevitable, I believe. While we're loading it up, it's maybe a good thing to notice or to say that we have a weekly Dutch webcast every Thursday, European time, CET, at 8 o'clock. It's in Dutch, but sometimes it's in English. Feel free to join us. It's an informal discussion of the news and events around the world for all our techies, and then normally we'll have a demo or two, or an interesting guest or two. And then do check out next week, Tuesday, is Martin van Stam doing office development live coding. So do check out his channel. I'll throw everything now on the screen. Just want to quickly not lose my focus. So that's a person type, or that's a company type. We should get a company thing there with our directors. Awesome, and that should okay. So what we can do is, okay, it fails now because it's not knowing what to do with these things. So what I'll do is actually take them out. Chuck them in there. And remove this as simple as possible. because we are watching on Twitch, I wonder if this is Martin from Stum's Twitter page. We go follow him, and that's with double A, Martin from Stum. Or you can just go to Twitch. Twitch.com AAFVSTM. So it's AAFVSTAM. That should take us to his channel. So also check out on YouTube and stuff. Also the same handle for his kind of things. Alright, so let's see what is going wrong now. Going back to the coding. We always record our shows, so you can always watch it back. You don't have the luxury of doing it timelines based, but hey, maybe one day we'll get there. So now let's create one company. That's been created, and refresh. That's our company. We have our director's name, John is there. And now let's go back to our other test and just create this one. That's also been created. Alright, so now note that these are nullable because it's actually on a sort of a document store, technically. So this is what we want. All the fields actually. Yes, it should be fine. So if I reopen this now, everything should be there again. So we're moving towards a more and more an API that does things. And I think in the next episode, what we'll do is we will see if we can do some more refactoring on this. Maybe just to recap, I would like to have an injectable mapper. We'll maybe get Jan de Vries on the show to co-code with me on this. Jan, I need you. And then next, this is fine for now, but it would be cool to also have it in here, I would say, as a bindable way, because I already have a binder. I must be able to get it bound as an item, but this is not so bad. Alright, so another thing that we can also clean up is a better way of, instead of doing these 3 times, actually just do it once. Maybe look at better JSON serialization. Or smarter. Use smarter serialization, meaning that I don't want to do this. I want to be based on the type I actually have in it. The serializer needs to know, does it need to follow this path or this path, and then also call the validation on them. And that's kind of also duplicate. Could refactor this more into a function or something. Then here, this validation can also be done better. Let me see. We could build this into a validatable object. And then yeah, that happens. And then also a better way of maybe doing these kind of mappings, because yeah, comparing these kind of things, we should be able to do like a sort of a helper function. And of course this should be in a move to repo. Right, so that's the few pointers I can say. So what we've done now is we've introduced AutoMapper. That's working. I don't think we need this because this does not work. Somehow I need to find out why this does not work. And then we have a few models. Well, this obviously does not work as well because it's an MVC thing. Let's just remove all the solutions headers or usings. Then I will check this in, and then we can move forward on this absolutely great little pet project of mine called Jobcard. Amazing. So everything builds. So at some point we need to start looking at some documentation. I added AutoMapper and tempted DI. Right. We're getting there. We are getting there. So the code should be plugged in. Just want to show Martin that I'm actually using my lower third he made me. Martin van Stam is quite good at those kind of things. Yeah, so to recap, thank you very much guys for watching. Do follow me on Twitter at FaniRenders, and check out my YouTube account, that's FaniRenders as well, and also on Twitch and everywhere. And do give me some feedback if you do want to see these kind of things again. Should we choose a different topic? Should we alternate? Or what should we do? In that note, it's officially morning in the Netherlands. So good morning to all the viewers. And have a good day further. Thank you for watching.